submit, work, obey. The gates are open.
The yellow line under my boots is wet, and it eats us one by one as the shutter breathes and shuts and breathes again. I keep my hands in sight, palms up, because the last man who folded his arms got his elbow twisted until something snapped. Ink on my wrist itches where the stamping girl didn't wipe the sweat first. The hall smells like boiled cloth and old metal. I swallow, and the swallow sounds too loud. After 3 doors and 2 checks of the same paper, what passes for day drains from the skylights. The lamps turn on, pale and vicious. The line keeps narrowing, heat builds under the yellow paint. We don't talk. Talking makes heads turn, black visors, thick gloves, a stick clicking on tiles. I shuffle when the back of my neck tells me to, not when the line budges. You learn that in the habcues. Feel the weight of what's behind you, and what's ahead, wait like breath, and move when it says move. The ink on my wrist bleeds into the old scar down there, the one the weave spindle gave me 2 winters ago. She, Mara, at the stamp table, didn't look at my face when she hit the die. An arm comes through the hatch, takes the paper from my fingers, gives it back stamped and smudged with watermark. I don't read it. I never read the ones they hand back. The marks are for them, not for me. A boy in front of me keeps picking at the blister on his heel. His skin shines raw. When he lifts his foot, I see how the paint stays perfect, scratched but perfect, as if it repaints itself after the scuffs. A woman far ahead cries under her breath, thin animal sounds, and the stick clicks on the tiles and the sounds cut off. We move. The shutter breathes a sliver of another room, white and light that cuts the eye, opens and closes. A cable runs along the ceiling, braided like rope and thick as my wrist. Little brass teeth hang from it, clacking to themselves, remembering something. I make my palms flatter. I lick my lips and taste the soap they gave us this morning, gray and bitter, that doesn't try to be anything but soap. Past the second stripe, the ones with oily aprons take our belts and the ties of our boots. They put the leather into bins without glancing. An old man whispers, "It's for the machines," and his partner presses her elbow into his ribs so hard he doubles over and they don't have to hear him anymore. The cuff of my sleeve snags on a little lip of metal. I smooth it down because I can't help it. I hate a snag more than most things at gatherings, dust and catches. My mother used to cut the pulling threads with her teeth, spit them into her palm, and flick them in the stove. "Hands," a voice says. It comes from a mouth mask, gray mesh, breath condensing as frost. I give my hands. A square reader presses into my palm. It makes a dry sound like seed in a dish. My old burns, my callus, all of it goes soft under the pressure and then harden again. "What is your designation?" the mask says. I give my name. The mask tilts. "Again," says the mask. I say it again. The stamp on my wrist goes sticky, the numbers bleed. She takes a pen and writes more numbers on top of the ones already there. It hurts only because she presses too hard. Her hand shakes. I hate that more than the pain, the way her hand shakes and she keeps going. Beyond the next shutter are chairs fixed to the floor. Some of them have straps, and I look away from the straps and count the screws on the one nearest to me. 8 screws on the arm, 4 on the base, 2 lost under the seat. I don't have to count them, I do it anyway. Counting keeps the ribs from trying to open my chest to the air and let out something I don't want to hear. I realize I am rubbing ink into my wrist, trying to unsmudge the smudge. I flatten my hand on my thigh. The boy with the blister tries to stand on both feet at once. I see the muscles in his legs quiver. He will fall soon. When he falls, the stick will click and then he will stand straighter than anyone. I want to tell him to sit a little back on his heels and let the tendon rest. I don't. A red sleeve moves through the doorway and slides along the wall. The cuff is heavy with little studs. It brushes a trail of dust from the paint. On grease and flowers drift in my nose together. Sweet and bitter, temple and engine. The person in the red doesn't look up. Wires run from their neck into a box on their chest. But I shouldn't be seeing that because I am looking down at my own shoes, at the yellow that will be under them again, painted perfect as a prayer. Past the third door, it gets louder and my ears start ringing. Not machines, I know machines. This is like the dust under a grate when something moves below it. It turns my molars to grit. I adjust the way my teeth meet to put the pressure in a different place. A hand like a clamp presses my head forward and I let it, because it doesn't have the patience to explain. I can make that easier for both of us. They take the little metal saint hanging from my neck. The string bites my skin a little as they pull. And I open my mouth before the hand reaches for my lip and tip my tongue up to show the place where a coin might be hidden. I know this game. I've played it too often. There is nothing there. I think of the room under my bunk where I used to slide treasures. A nail with a funny bent head. A twist of copper wire. But that was a different bunk and a different me, and none of that is here. Two men drag a cart between the chairs. The cart rattles with metal bowls and parts that look like hinges. Each piece has a number stamped into it. These numbers are clean. When they lift one of the bowls, steam rises and it smells like linen. Something metal shifts under the linen and the table legs knock. A man with brass on his fingertips takes my forearm and squeezes. He does it like he's squeezing meat. His eyes not on me, but on something over my shoulder. When he lets go, I see how the marks from his fingers stay as pale ovals against my brown skin. I rub them and they stay a while. Then they go. "Remove," someone says. I pull my shirt over my head. I put it folded on my knees because folding is a thing that makes sense. A hand snatches it and throws it into a basket. I watch where it goes. I shouldn't. Watching doesn't do anything. I can't help it. It dives into gray cloth and disappears. Under the straps, the metal is cold. There's a smear of something there, old brown, sticky at the edges. The last person who sat here scratched a pattern into the arm with something sharp. 3 little lines crossed by one long one. I put my thumb on it. It feels like a seam. "Hold," says the voice in gray mesh. Fingers push my head down. My throat goes tight. I breathe through my nose, and it smells like that soap again, and burnt hair, and under it a medicine sweetness like the syrup they gave me when my lung bled when I was 12. I swallow down the thought of that bed, of Ma putting the cloth to my mouth and saying, "Breathe slow, breathe with my hand." Her hand was always warmer than I expected it to be. A circle clamps against my forehead. It has 4 teeth on the inside. It can bite harder if I make it. I hold anyway. The boy next to me coughs 3 times. He has a cough like a bark. He doesn't cover it. There's nowhere for it to go. Someone shoves cloth between his teeth. His eyes go full of water. Light swims, not all at once. A little, then a lot. A sea of light dragging me sideways by the neck. I can't lift my head. I can blink. I blink slowly. The blink feels like a drawn-out march between one gate and the next. My tongue as big as a hand. I want to lick my lips again. A hand comes into my lap and moves my legs. I let them. If I keep my muscles loose, it hurts less when the hand forgets I am not a pallet and grips wrong. The clamp on my scalp tightens a hair's breadth. It is a measured thing. It knows what it does. It hums like the braided cable hums. Something cold traces behind my ear. I flinch without moving. The cold stays there, touches again. It wants in. I don't have a word for it, and it doesn't care what I call it. I think of the yellow line under my boots, how it eats one by one. Still, a voice says immediately in my ear, "It has no breath." It doesn't steam on the mesh. It isn't interested in whether I am brave. I don't move. I can't. The cold hardens and becomes a point. The point presses, a crunch runs deep, and a heat fills my skull like a lantern pushing its chimney into fog. I feel the sound of it more than I hear it. My jaw locks. I try to open my eyes wider, but my eyes are already as open as eyes go. The world turns to lace, fine white net. You can breathe through net. You can stop it touching your mouth. Something is happening behind my ear. It hurts past pain into a taste that floods my tongue. Like the time someone split the copper tank and the room turned metal and sweet. I swallow hard. It doesn't move the taste. The clamp hums lower. Someone says numbers that fall like coins on a table. The smell of burnt hair grows thick as felt. I do not know whose hair it is. A wet trickle runs down into my collar. For a second, I think it's rain. The hum changes. A hand pads my cheek with linen. It sticks, pulls. The cart rattles away, and the boy with the bark cough doesn't make any more noise. The teeth on the strap hold prints of his molars in dried brown. I can count them. I don't. They ease something out of my arm, a little tug and free. Then in, with a hiss, something smooth and cold that moves of its own accord, finding the vein like a water diviner. My fingers try to curl and can't. I had meant to say my name. The thought has to find my mouth through syrup. My name is the first thing my mother taught me to say, and the last thing she said to me in a voice without the wheeze. It should be easy. It isn't. Walls come together and part, black and white, then black and red, then black and color I don't have because the lamps change their minds. I could count them if I had another set of eyes. And the hum finds a tone that fits the bones behind my nose and stays there. I don't pass out. I fall into a space as exact as a box, and I lie there with my arms at my sides, and I do not move. My chest rises and falls on duty, not for me. Voices slide away along corridors. I catch only the hinges of words. A hand runs a blue cloth over my eyes. I don't blink. I can't lose myself in that. If I open and close without command, what else might open? They lift us together. 2, 3, 4. The numbers fold when I try to count them and wheel us along. I feel the floor through the wheels. A ridge repeats every 2 heartbeats. My mouth is dry like the dust between the stacks of spent thread. Someone breathes in a liquid way. Someone jostles us into each other, and I smell skin and fear in the same soap. We pass something that sings, and it is not a song, it is metal rising and falling to its own heat. It goes through my chest. For a second, I imagined that if I timed my heart to it, I could fold myself in and vanish. But keeping my heart is not my job. Keeping still is my job. It gets colder. A new light. The air smells like the canal in winter, the way it does under the planks when the ice rots from the underside. We stop. They lift us again. A strap goes over my knees. A strap goes over my chest. I test them with a breath and a shoulder, and they do not move. The thing behind my ear hums once when I try, and the thought of trying drains away through it. Something in me looks for a wall to lean on. I don't find one. Unit ready, a dry voice says. It has weights hung on the words. Input accepted. The sound not meant for me finds me anyway. Unit rings. My eyes open because they are told to open. I see a ceiling of painted tin squares, dented, fretted with flaking leaf. A fly wanders there like a moving speck of soot. It lands and flies and lands again on a blister of paint. I could be that fly. It does not get processed. It simply gets where the air takes it. They tilt my head to the left. The world falls that way. I see tables and clamps. A girl sits up, vomits between her knees, and lies down again. Her hands are very clean. Someone has been scrubbing her over and over. They pull her hair back with a strap. I want to touch her shoulder and say, "Breathe," with my hand. I do not move. A mask leans into my vision. The eyes behind the mesh are silver where the whites should be, little scratches circling the dark. Respond, the mask says. Then a weight falls into my chest and becomes my voice, like a coin into a well. Responding, I hear, and it is my mouth moving. The shape of the word comes without me deciding. It tastes like old blood. The sound that follows has no place to go in my head. It finds one anyway. Designation, there is a beat where my name could live. Silence falls into it and grows there like mold. My lips part. The word that comes is not the one I have held behind my teeth like a nut. Pending. The room breathes. The straps pull again as if to remind the leather to be lazy. A hand goes under my head and presses a pad there. The hum at my ear changes, deepens. It has so many notches to click through and never stops exactly between any of them. Task.ready, my voice says. I am ready. I have always been ready. It is in me to ready myself when told. And the fear I have is a kind of readiness. It makes room, it removes, it prepares. Places for other people to put things. They peel my hands open. Something narrow and cold is placed between my thumb and first finger. Notched, heavy. The weight knows where to sit. My fingers close, skin tightens crosswise. The knuckles look like knuckles, the hand looks like my hand. But between the web and palm there is a new skin that has no lines yet. Stamp, someone says. A paper slides under my hand, my arm raises without my asking. It brings the stamp down. It hits the table with a rhythm I have felt before at the weave bed. Slap, lift, shift, slap. The paper moves. The stamp lands straight, ink blotches, but the mark is clear. It reads. My eyes trip on the loops and hooks, the letters I can spell only by the pressure they made on my hand when I learned them. And it reads accepted when the stamp comes clean, and rejected when it comes redder, and the cloth someone forgets to rinse smears the line. My mouth makes no sound. My breath is a little whistle. The hum eats the whistle. The boy with the blister does not pass by me. Where he has gone is a room I don't get to see. They unhook the strap over my chest and rehook it 2 holes tighter. I breathe shallower, and the air that used to go deep now turns just around my tongue, and that is enough. They set my feet flat. The yellow line is there again, obedient as paint. My toes touch it and the paint stays perfect. I stamp. The papers become a part of the moving world, like the straps, like the beaten tin. They pass and pass and pass. Little prickles travel up my forearms when the metal turns cold again. Yet someone hums under their breath 2 stations down, some half-prayer with no teeth left. And the hum in my head and the hum in the throat of that person fight until one eats the other and wins, and there is one hum. It's easier that way. My eye drifts and is tugged back. It is a gentle tug the first time. A little fire sparks in my temple the second time, and the eye seats itself where it belongs like a ball back into its cup. I look where the looking should go. On the edge of my vision, a hand trembles. The ink is not set on the stamp in that hand. It leaves prints blurred. A stick clicks on tile slow. The hand steadies. When they take my hand away to wipe it, it leaves a little wet darkness behind on the wood. I watch the spot of black going cure slick to matte. It shows the grain more than the planer ever did. I imagine for a moment, and I am smoothing that plank in Ma's place, the shavings curling up and falling and sticking to my heel in the summer. There's no smell of wood here. There's incense and oil and people. The thought doesn't stay. The hum climbs and the thought slides. Someone brings a bowl under my chin. I dry heave once. There is nothing in me to bring up. My head thumps back against the rest. The wood there is softer than it looks, old bruises yielding. I had a name when I came in. The fact of that sits like a tile on a floor, a single tile in a pattern I can't hold now that the yellow line is pulled taut. Refuse Unit 4, someone says. The paper moves left, not right. The arm on the other side does its own job. I bring the stamp down. The crack of it is like a knuckle on a door. It makes sense. The order leaves me less space than there was. I don't need the space. That is the thought that finds me and sits warm as an animal. I let it sit. I do not stroke it. Something itches where the cold went in behind my ear. It itches all the time, not here, not then. Always. If I could put my fingernail there and lift the corner of this feeling and slide what is underneath into daylight, I might see what I don't see now. My nail is not near my ear. It has work to do. A tray of little metal teeth passes and one skitters and falls, and the thin man carrying them stoops and picks it up with fingers that are scorched white. He glances at me in a way. He has a scar as neat as a seam down the middle of his lip. His breath smells like peppermint. There is peppermint here, of all things. The lights dim and swell in a slow beat that has nothing to do with ours. People change places, and the masks fog and clear. Someone scrubs the floor where a bladder let go. A line of damp laps at my boot and dries to a dark patch. I bring the stamp down. I smell the ink every third hit. It's as if the breath of the stamp itself comes up and meets mine, and the two ignore each other. If I take a deeper breath, within what the strap allows, I can taste the old metal in the air, the rust from where the pipes sweat. The drip lands on the back of my hand every so often, cold, regular as the ridge under the wheels was. The drop finds the same place by instinct or design. It leaves a wet circle that glistens for a breath and then doesn't. I watch it gather and break until the hum climbs and carries that small watching away too. My fingers close on the next stamp and hit the table. The sound rings and rings, and doesn't stop where I think it will. The mark it makes is very clean. It is not my name. It does not have to be. I acknowledge it with the tips of my nerves where the cold went in and bring the stamp down again. The drip finds the back of my hand once more and slides to my knuckle, and I feel it go.